Hello, it's Regina. Welcome back to my haunted library. Today I have a tag video. This is the Book Snob tag, which I think is pretty funny. And Jason from Jason's Weird Reads tagged me, and I really appreciate Jason for always giving me shout outs and tagging me and retweeting me. And it's just, I'm really not that much involved on Twitter, but it's really great to be included in the community. So let's get started on this tag. This is fun. Question number one. The Adaptation Snob. Do you always read the book before you see the movie? No. I mean, I think maybe before movies were so readily available online, I might have done that. Like if a Jane Austen movie came out, I probably wouldn't have gone to see it unless I had read the book. So I do see movies that I have read the book, but I don't like have to read the book before the movie, if that makes sense. Format snob. You can choose one format in which to read the books for the rest of your life. Which one would you choose? So I definitely prefer the physical book over the ebook or audiobook, although I do have a Kindle. I just recently got into listening to more audiobooks, so I'm like reading some of the Game of Thrones books that way, and I think it's really helpful for me anyway to tackle like a big tome, like a fantasy book that way, so I can read a little from the text, do a hike and listen to audiobook, and that way I get through the book. So I do both, but I prefer the physical book. I love the texture, especially like a really nice binding. Like I'm reading a book now, Yellow Fog by Les Daniels. It's a really nice copy of that book, like a truly beautifully bound copy of that book, and it's enhanced the experience tremendously. So I always will go for the physical book. Number three, ship snob. I only just recently learned what this ship was all about, and I get it now. I'm cool that way. But ship snob. Would you date or marry a non-reader? Well, I'm married to a reader, but we read very different things. He only reads pretty much. I mean, he has read some fiction, but he almost exclusively reads nonfiction, sports, and politics, which are two subjects I have no interest in at all. And he has no interest in what I read, so it's a perfect relationship, and we're never stealing each other's books. Genre snob. If you could ditch one genre, never to be read again, for the rest of your life, what would you ditch? I guess I'm understanding this could apply to anything, but I could probably live without romance. I'm not a big romance reader. I do indulge every once in a while, but I think my life would be okay if I never read romance again. Number five, uber genre snob. You can only choose to read one genre for the rest of your life. Which would you choose? I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one and say mystery, because a lot of this would fall under that category. So it's a little bit of a cheat, I think, but because horror kind of can be mystery, fall under that genre. I wouldn't just exclusively like to read horror for the rest of my life. I feel like I would be missing out on the other genres I love, like fantasy and science fiction, which I really like to read more of. And so I think mystery kind of encompasses a lot of that, I hope. Community snob. That's number six. Which genre do you think receives the most snobbery from the bookish community? I don't know. I mean, just from my own personal experience, I don't really see a lot of snobbery in the bookish community. Or maybe I'm just looking at the wrong booktube channels, or the right booktube channels. But I think that maybe horror, just because of the kind of flack that I've gotten, not from booktube, but just in general in life, has been the horror and the gasps I have received when I reveal that not only do I love reading horror, but I also write in the horror genre. And it's fine. I mean, horror is always going to have that reputation, and I embrace it, and something I do actually like about it. We're like a small subgroup, and it's kind of nice to keep it that way. What else? Number seven, Snobbery Recipient. Have you ever been snubbed for something that you've been reading, or for reading in general? It's funny because I did a kind of tongue-in-cheek video about this last summer, that I will link below. It's about being book shamed, which I think is kind of the same thing. Yes, I've definitely experienced that. And it's funny. I mean, I think it's funny if someone is offended by what you're reading, that can be kind of an interesting conversation. Yeah, so I mean, just watch the video. It's kind of this, it's everything I really have to say about that if you are so inclined. And is that it? Yeah, I guess that's it. So as far as like snobbery goes, I do think that anytime you encounter a snob, that's probably a very insecure person. And I admire people who have an appreciation for the high and the low. Like I just finished reading a biography about Edward Gorey, and he is somebody who just, was as excited about classic or obscure books of Victorian literature as he was about episodes of X-Files and the Golden Girls, So that is my kind of person. I do try to read a little high and low, but I don't, shame myself if I want to read like a trashy book. I think that's the pleasure of reading. You can just read whatever you want. And, what I think about if I were in a public sphere about like the book I'm carrying, no, I really wouldn't. Unless it was like something, I mean, I might not carry the Marquis de Sade or something in a public space. But other than that, I think that, I've never really felt ashamed of what I've read, and I think it's funny when anyone's ever made any comments. So yeah, so that's the tag. So I am going to actually tag a few people in this, and here we go. The book invasion, and if they've done the tag already, anybody can do this tag. I think it's kind of fun. And a pretty new book tuber, CJ Wright, and my he's a big booktuber, but Edward Lorne, I love his take on horror, so I'd be interested to see if he had any kind of snobbery thrown in his direction for the books that he's read. So that's all I have for today. Thanks again for stopping by my haunted library, and I will see you soon. Bye.